Morning, everyone. It's great to see you online Sunday service. I really am looking forward to seeing you, all of you, in person very soon. This past year, we all had very unprecedented, difficult times because of the Covid-19 globally. In this new year, I sincerely hope and pray we can overcome all these hardships internally and externally. And especially, we hope this pandemic will disappear as soon as possible. We all know that whatever hardship, it has its own lesson. For example, if at the baseball game, a pitcher cannot read the sign of the catcher or the sign that comes from the coach, they can lose the game. So what could be the lesson that we can attain from this hardship? Or how could we overcome these difficulties today? Let's all think about that. Why do you think the criminals are imprisoned? It is not necessary they would like to separate them from the society or give a punishment. The true reason might be by providing them the solitary environment, they try to give them a chance, a very good opportunity to reflect themselves and improve their mind and their life. I think the same can be applied to this COVID-19 situation. The universe gives us some lessons to reflect ourselves. We cannot go outside freely, or we cannot meet our dear friends or loved ones. Probably the universe teaches us why don't we look ourselves very deep and reset our life goal, reevaluate our lifestyle. Our founding master said the future would become very, very bright, unprecedented, progressive age we will encounter. But before that, we have to pass through this test or this trial situation. Why don't we use this opportunity to reflect ourselves, recharge ourselves? Let's consider this opportunity as the chance for us to have some retreat, long-term retreat to recharge ourselves. In line with that, I would like to talk about one of the mindfulness in our daily practice. Number 4, be mindful each year to set aside in advance the necessary funds for a meditation retreat so that you may receive specialized training, special practice at the retreat center. I heard in the Sahara Desert there is a marathon, desert race. In that desert race in Sahara Desert, sometimes the marathon runner die, collapsing in the desert. Do you know what's the cause of the death? Dehydration. But the funny thing is, all marathon runners run the race carrying with the bottled waters. But some of them collapse because of the dehydration. It is because they cannot feel thirsty. When they sweat in that hot weather, it dries very quickly. It's not running the normal temperature. And all the other marathon runners run very hard. So they feel very competitive. They continue to run. That's why they sometimes eventually collapse because of the dehydration. Having water bottles in their hands. In many countries, in contemporary society, people live in a very competitive ways, trying to accomplish their life goals, especially some very secular, materialistic life goals. Just like those marathon runners, they cannot feel thirsty. They don't feel they are actually mentally or spiritually drained. 4 years ago, one of my friends was very high-ranking government official, died because of the heart attack. But basically, he overworked himself to death. That happens in all societies. When babies crying, when they have a very good sleep, the mother gave them good milk, good food. They become very happy again. So if you think you are really upset, stressed out, or you become too much sensitive, vulnerable to many things, then may be the time for you to recharge yourself by having a very, very good rest. There is a very famous motivational speaker in Korea, Kim Chang-wook. He's a very well-known guy. He's very, very funny person. He's very popular, so he's very busy giving lectures in various places. After he became mid-40s, for unknown reasons, he came to have some serious depression symptom. He could not understand. He's very popular, he's making a lot of money, and he's getting well with his wife and with his friend. But that depression became a little serious. But the thing is, he could not meet the psychiatrist or psychologist because most of the Koreans know his face, and the happiness preacher get help from the psychiatrist. That's not good for his career. One day, after his lecture in some Catholic church, he had some counseling with a Catholic priest who was very, very bored. And he very candidly said what he felt in his mind. After listening that Mr. Kim's talk, the priest said, "You talk too much. You need to learn silence." And then he recommended one Catholic retreat center in France. So Mr. Kim asked, "I don't speak any French, but how can I go there? The retreat center in France." He's a Protestant, he's a Christian. the priest said, since you cannot speak French, that's why you can learn silence there. He canceled most of his scheduled appointment, and after 1 month, he went to that retreat center near Paris. He could not communicate with other people in the center at all. So he meditated over prayer, and did some physical work. After 2 weeks, after meditation, he seated himself on the bench looking at the river. When he heard the church bell, for some unknown reason, lots of tears came out of his eyes. And at the moment, he realized the root cause of his depression. He was born and raised in a family. Their parents, his father was addicted to gambling. They always fight. So he was raised in a very abusive family. He was always anxious because most of the time their parents fought very seriously. And he has very low schooling background. And for when he carefully observed his mind, the direction of his life is to get some approval from others. Particularly because he was born and raised in that kind of a family background. So when he heard the church bell, what he realized was the most important thing, particularly as a happiness preacher, is to approve himself. Approving himself is the foundation for us to realize happiness, whatever the circumstances are. So to make a long story short, from that time, he started to work on the middle path. And whether other people loves his talk or not, he didn't care that much. And in a very authentic sense, he became the real happiness preacher. Just like this story, the turning point was when he recharged himself at the retreat center. When we hear the testimonial of many ministers or pre-ministers when I was in Korea, many ministers told us that they decided to become a minister. Before that, they have some inner conflict when they have some long-term retreat. So during this COVID-19 situation, I think we all have, whether we like it or not, a wonderful retreat situation, solitary environment. That's why I think the universe provide this kind of opportunity. What are we supposed to do at home? That's your retreat center, let's just say. When you read the One Buddhism canon, it says in this way, retreat practice, we usually call this special training. Retreat practice is the practice 4 times of quietude. It takes as its main subject spiritual cultivation and the cultivation of wisdom. So when we say spiritual cultivation, it has 3 areas: cultivation of wisdom, cultivation of spirit, and the mindful choice in action. The main subject when we become involved in retreat is spiritual cultivation and the cultivation of wisdom. One day, one Buddhist minister paid a visit to Venerable Dosung, our third head Dharma master. He was very much dedicated practitioner and financially helped Won Buddhism a lot as some CEO of a big corporation. He was very sick. He had high blood pressure, etc. Our third head Dharma master said, "Your illness cannot be cured by medicine. You need to rest. Take a very, very good rest." Let's just think about when you drive our car. When you drive 4 or 5 hours, the car engine become heated. So we needed to stop the car, even for that machine to cool down. The same can be applied to our mind, especially to our life. From time to time, even Buddhas and Jesus retreat themselves in some solitary environment and had a good rest. Just like during the winter time, when we see outside this meditation, all the trees shed their leaves and conserve the energy into their roots. Likewise, we needed to take a really good, authentic rest. When we have a good rest, it's not like going to movie or being involved in either conversation. When we truly recharge ourselves in a spiritual way, when our mind becomes peaceful and calm down and wisdom arises. But that's not the whole story. Just like when you come to the One Dharma Center for residential retreat, we have the session of a Dharma conversation, or people listen to the Dharma talk, especially at home. We needed to study and contemplate the scripture to get the wisdom of the realized teachers. Our founding master said, entering an intensive session at the meditation hall is like a patient entering a hospital. When a person's physical body gets ill, one is treated with medicine at the hospital. When the mind gets ill, one is treated with the way at the school of religion. Just like the Buddha may be called the medicine king, so too can one say that his doctrine may be called his medicine, and the temple his hospital. However, most people recognize only physical illness as a sickness and spend their time and money to cure them, but do not recognize illness of the mind as being sickness and do not even think of curing them. How can this not be lamentable to the wise? When you go out, in order to check whether your face is clean or not, we look in the mirror. Likewise, by reading, contemplating the words of a enlightened master, we need to check our practice as well as our life goal. Whether we are driving our car, our mind or life in a correct direction or not. When I say this kind of a thing, many people say, well, I really would like to join the retreat, but I don't have time. That's why the scripture said to set aside in advance the necessary funds for a meditation retreat. Necessary fund does not necessarily mean the money. It also means the time as well. Moses was adopted by the Egyptian princess. Even though he was a Hebrew, he was raised as a prince in order to become the future king. So he had the best education, maybe. But as we know, at the age of 40, there's some instant which forced him to left the Egypt, and he became a shepherd. The job is taking care of the sheep. It's a very boring job, very extremely simple job. He worked as a shepherd for 40 years. And then at the age of 80, he encountered God. He heard the voice of God. Not when he was very intelligent, when he had a very good education. So just like Moses, when our mind becomes calm and pure, our life becomes very simplified. Then we all can listen to the voice of our true nature. What is the difference between invention and discovery? Invention is that something is created. Discovery is we come to find out what's already there. When we stop our mind, we really can try to discover something within ourselves as well as in our life. The first Korean astronaut was Dr. Lee Soyeon. She had a biochemist. She was very excited when we travel outer space. What a beautiful it is, the moon, the blue moon, or the pure empty space. But when she actually go outer space, what she discovered was the blue planet, the Earth. She had lived for more than 40 years. This is what she texted to the press, which I literally translated. Now, my life would be changed. I would never forget our beautiful world where I live. I will not be fussy over small things. As I said at the beginning, when a baby cries, it sleeps and are fed well, everything go home. So if you have in your mind life some issues, maybe it is because we try to attain something external too much, which is not that truthful. It is because we lose our true self. So during this COVID-19 period, we really need to discover our true self along with all people. I think that's the best way to overcome this COVID-19 situation. Thank you.